men, women, children, whoever you are, all are welcomed here. It's your boy Peter here, aka Peter Freako 10, baby. Bring you guys an episode of the Movie Review Show, where the good movies are always reviewed. Okay, back into our movie review. And we're back into the wonderful world of animation. Now, throughout the 90s, Disney has ruled the animation kingdom, making mincemeat out of people like Don Bluth, who once took the crown from them due to their work in the 80s with films like The Black Cauldron, and to some, Oliver and Company, even though I love it. But Don then had his downfall with his 90s films, despite bouncing back from Anastasia. That's besides the point. So much so, Disney's success in the 90s inspired other companies to follow the Disney formula their own way. Some did it well, others are best left forgotten. I bring this up because it's important to realize where Disney was at this time and how no one ever thought that there would be another studio that would step up to the plate. Oh, how wrong we were, because in comes another studio from the one person who we least expect. Someone from inside Disney. And that, of course, being DreamWorks. While starting off doing a couple live action films, today's film kicked off their company, and that's what matters today. And a good first impression can mean a lot for some people, which is what we're talking about today. Their first step into the animation kingdom. And what film is that, you may be asking? How did DreamWorks get their start in the animation industry? Well, they started with a little movie called Antz. So, how did Antz start DreamWorks? Well, grab your pickaxes, grab your anus bug drinks. Let's see how Antz starts DreamWorks. Now, Antz was a film made in the year 1998. This is actually directed by two people. The first one being Eric Darnell, who actually helped on a music video for the band Rem for their song, in particular, Get Up. He also worked as an office assistant on the horror anthology movie Campfire Tales. Later on, though, he would join PDI, the group that does the CGI for this movie, where they would work on various shorts and an episode of The Simpsons, in particular the Treehouse of Horror episode with that CGI that, along with Toy Story, was considered groundbreaking for the time. This film is Eric's directorial debut along with Tim Johnson. Oh, hey guys, it's Peter here, aka Peter Freakout 10. Hope you all are doing well at this moment, and I hope you all are enjoying the review a little bit. I just want to make a quick correction to that part of the video, because I say in that part there's two directors. There's actually three. The third one being a guy named Lawrence Gutterman, who only directed additional sequences for the movie. And most of the credit goes to Eric Darnell and Tim Johnson, who did a good chunk of the work. I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys before we got any further into the video. And if anybody sees that on the site or something like Wikipedia, just want to let you know that it was actually there was a third director involved. So, all that aside, back to the program. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Now, in order to talk about the movie, we need to talk about the production and where the groundwork was laid, because it's no different from my other videos, but boy, oh boy, is this a story to talk about. And it starts all the way back in 1988, and it starts with a man, that man being none other than Jeffrey Katzenberg. His career started with him helping in the marketing department of Paramount Pictures, where he worked his way up the ladder, where he was promoted to overseeing various productions of Paramount films such as 48 Hours and Temple of Doom. In 1984, though, he left Paramount when Michael Eisner appointed him to serve as chairman of the Walt Disney Company, to which he accepted. Disney was in a bad place around this time, as their films weren't doing as well as their classics, with Black Cauldron being a flop and Oliver and Company turning in middling results. But under Jeffrey, he managed to get the company back on its feet with The Little Mermaid, ushering in the Disney Renaissance and creating various classics. However, before all that, Disney had written a script for a film called Army Ants. At the time, though, it didn't go anywhere. But after years of hits, tragedy struck the company when in 1994, President Frank Wells was killed in a helicopter crash. And at that moment, Jeffrey tried convincing them to give him the position. This came off as tasteless, being that he just died, so they refused. This led to a fallout, which eventually led to Jeffrey resigning and leaving the company. He decided to start his own company with the help of Spielberg, who at the time was handling his own animation company, Emblem Entertainment, and David Geffen of Geffen Film Company, and various music labels, with their first movie not being an animated movie, but rather The Peacekeeper, and another film being Mousetrap. However, behind those films, they were already getting ready to show their skills at the animation side of things, as they had two movies in production. This and The Prince of Egypt, with Prince planned to be their first movie, and this would come later. Why did this come first, though? We'll get to that later. That being said, it's unknown if Jeffrey got some inspiration from the Army Ant story at Disney or he made it up himself, but they began working on the script. And what's funny, when you look at the writers, two of the writers are the Weitz brothers. I shit you not. The same Weitz brothers who are writing that American Pie movie. I kid you not. A raunchy comedy that came from the guys who wrote this movie. I'm speechless. I'm literally speechless. However, while writing the script, some aspects of the script would later be retooled by the film's lead actor, Woody Allen, which I will have something to say about that when I talk about my opinion on the movie. But he retooled that to fit his style of comedy, with later rewrites coming to change characters, personalities, particular characters getting bigger roles, or particular characters getting removed entirely. They approved the script and the team got their cast together and were given a budget of $42 to $105 million. When the film got into production, the team saw the success Pixar and Disney had with Toy Story and decided to go the route of CGI for this movie, calling upon PDI to handle the CGI effects. And when designing the world of Antz, they drew inspiration from New York, using grass to represent the buildings in the area. Production was going well on the DreamWorks end, but then the dailies got out. Ho 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 ho, boy, may the chaos commence. Because they dropped the nuke. As while they were in production with Antz, the team at Pixar were made aware of the production, as they were also in production with A Bug's Life, a very similar movie. This caused a fallout between Katzenberg and the people at Disney, as some involved with A Bug's Life believed Jeffrey stole the idea for his movie, while Jeffrey saying he didn't, even though the movie carried some similarities to the plot in A Bug's Life. Jeffrey says he didn't, while John Lasseter says he kept in contact with him and told him the idea while they were making Toy Story, even though Katzenberg said the idea came from two other sources that he used to back up. The friction continued between the two, even leading to a telephone call where John Lasseter cussed out Jeffrey, and there was an incident where, because of the fact that A Bug's Life was also coming, they had to delay Prince of Egypt to avoid competition with that film. And there's also a rumor going around that Antz got moved to compete with A Bug's Life. It's all a bunch of he said, she said nonsense. But it's never confirmed what's true or not. I do have to say, I don't believe John Lasseter keeping in contact with Jeffrey, considering the fact that Jeffrey's relationship with Disney didn't end on the best of terms. Considering that Jeffrey was begging them to give him the president's job after one person died in a helicopter crash. So why would you keep in contact with that person is beyond me. In fact, from what it seems like, Lasseter and Pixar kept poking the bear and starting fights with Jeffrey when he was focusing on the movie. In fact, Lasseter called Antz schlock when he hasn't seen the movie. Even with the film out, people were quick to see differences between the two. So it really shows Disney just kept starting shit, and the feud was all for nothing. That being said, all that aside, the movie was released on October 2nd, 1998, and it opened to number one at the box office, as it managed to knock Rush Hour off the number one spot, grossing over $17 million in its opening weekend. So it was a strong opening for DreamWorks, with it being their first movie, and it held the #1 spot for 3 weeks and has become the highest grossing opening for October, surpassing Stargate in 1994. And by the time December rolled around, it earned half of its budget back. It earned a decent profit. So I don't get people saying it was a flop or this, that, and the third, or didn't make as much as they were hoping. I know A Bug's Life may have done better with its opening weekend, but I think that had more to do with the fact that people knew it was the team behind Toy Story, so they had something to go off. But there's no denying the film was a hit because it finished its run with over 170 million. So it's not a bad start for the company. And the funniest thing, though, I have seen people in their critiques of the film, but both this and A Bug's Life, they carry the same rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 92%. So I think critics like them equally. But for Antz, critics praised the film for its voice cast, animation, and humor. Hell, Siskel and Ebert even awarded the film 2 thumbs up, with Roger Ebert in his written review awarding the movie 3.5 out of 4 stars. Later on, Gene Siskel, his co-star, even said he preferred it to A Bug's Life, which is crazy considering on the audience side on Rotten Tomatoes it's more mixed, as it has a 52% on that side. On IMDb is a 6.5 out of 10, which while lower than A Bug's Life's 7.2 out of 10, is still very good. And I think this whole thing doesn't represent the majority's opinion, because the people I've talked to seem to prefer this film to A Bug's Life. So it really shows that these sites that you go to, like Rotten Tomatoes and all that, even though I use them for when looking into a film and who's behind it, that along with IMDb, they don't represent the majority's opinion. In fact, the only person who should be deciding on your opinion is you. You are the one who should decide if you like something or not. Not when someone else is telling you what to like. And this shows that. This shows that you should be the one making your decisions. You should be the one coming out of the film deciding if you like it or not. And not changing it just because someone online said it. I want to throw that out there because some people seem to forget that. Now, before I get into the film, I have to address this aspect of the film. The elephant in the room. The main star, Woody Allen. Yes, I am aware of the allegations that were made by his daughter Dylan, which I gotta stress is all alleged. And I don't know if it happened or not. If it didn't, alright, that's good. But if it did, that's screwed up. He needs jail time. But with that said, any praise, and I repeat, I haven't given my opinion of the film yet, but any praise I give him here is his work as an actor, not the person himself. I want to make that clear. This is a movie review channel. We're here to have fun and talk movies. This is not the place to touch those topics. I'm just bringing it up here to tell people I am aware of those things, that stuff and what he's accused of. So those who want to be civil and enjoy the vids, thank you for understanding. But those looking to start a fight, relax, don't get mad, you can leave. I'm not asking you to say, the door is back there. Go ahead. And also keep the comments of like, did you hear this? You're reviewing a film with Woody Allen with this, even though he did this. I want to bring that up before the people get on their keyboards. Don't go doing that. With that said, let's talk Antz. But Antz was one of those films that I didn't know what to make of when I first heard about it. All I knew was it was coming off a new animation company with some of the people involved were originally part of Emblem Entertainment, which explains how Simon Wells is involved with Prince of Egypt, being he was a part of Balto, and that was Emblem. And outside of those, as well as All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, can't forget that movie because I love that film, the ones outside the Disney library haven't been that good. And being that this came out the same time as A Bug's Life, I don't know what brought me to this, but for some reason I thought it was a Babe and Gordy effect for some reason. But the more I read into it and who I saw involved, what have I got to lose? I'll check it out. So I waited till after Halloween. I took a night to see it. And I like this film. I do. And judging by what people have told me about A Bug's Life, which I will check out, but based on what I heard, and I'm going to reserve judgment till after I see it, I do kind of put this one above it from what I've heard. Because regardless of what you've heard about the film, it's nothing like A Bug's Life. Because you can look at the main story beats as similar to A Bug's Life, but unlike A Bug's Life, I feel the best way to describe this movie is to pull up a critic note, an adult film disguised as a kid's film. Because unlike A Bug's Life, which is a Pixar movie, so it feels specifically targeted at kids, Antz is more of a family movie. So there's something there for everyone, whether it's adults or kids. And I appreciate when animation takes that route, besides being specifically for kids. But that kind of helps make the film more of what I want out of that angle, without being obnoxious and unfunny. I'll get into why later though. But with the cast in this film, like I said, Woody Allen is the main lead, and he's the director and actor of films like Annie Hall, Manhattan. You also have Sharon Stone, of course, Basic Instinct, The Specialist, Total Recall, and The Quick and the Dead. You also have Gene Hackman, of course, Lex Luthor from Superman 1, 2, and 4, The French Connection, Mississippi Burning. He was also in Enemy of the State. Sylvester Stallone is even in this. Yes, Rocky, Rambo, among many other action classics. Jennifer Lopez is even in this from Money Train. She was also in Anaconda and Celine. Danny Glover has a small role from Lethal Weapon and Predator 2. Christopher Walken from Batman Returns. Anne Bancroft from The Graduate. Dan Aykroyd from SNL, which is funny because along with him, his wife on Coneheads, Jane Curtin, also has a role in this. But getting into the film, the plot is basically we meet this ant named Z, voiced by Woody Allen, who's a part of this colony of ants led by this ant named General Mandible, played by Gene Hackman. And due to him being in the worker class, he feels he hasn't contributed anything of value to the colony in his own way. Due to his social class, he's being taught to think alike and abide by the rules and deliver that same sort of value in the same way. Well, he feels like he could do more. We then meet Bala, played by Sharon Stone, who is in a bit of a similar predicament as she's being trained to be the next queen and to marry Mandible. And due to her social class, she's told to present this picture perfect image and stay away from the lower class, which includes Z. While wanting to experience the world, she sneaks out and finds Z at a bar where Z ends up falling in love with her. And after finding out she's the princess, or being trained to be the princess, the only way he can meet her is if he is a soldier. So he convinces his friend Weaver, played by Sylvester Stallone, to switch classes, and he ends up being thrown into battle where he ends up surviving and meets her again, where he accidentally reveals she broke the rules of the social class, which lead to them escaping the colony. And Z basically convinces her to basically join him as he goes to this place called Insectopia, which is basically where he feels he will be accepted as an individual and feels like he can bring value of some way in his own. And pretty much with some hesitation, she agrees to go with him. All the while, Mandible and his second in command, Cutter, played by Christopher Walken, are on the hunt to get them back in fear it could damage the image of this picture perfect colony they have set up. All the while, he is focused on restarting the colony and pretty much forcing them to basically renovate it in a way that they'll dig deeper into the ground, despite the fact knowing full well that they are digging into a puddle using the all casualties will happen thing. So now Bala and Z need to find Insectopia, all the while find a way to save the colony from getting flooded. Will the two be able to save the colony as well as find Insectopia, or will the colony be made into a swimming pool? I always maintain a rule for me that the best type of animated films are the ones that can draw everyone in. The ones that balance it properly are some of my favorites. And Ant succeeds at doing that because I think the story itself is engaging for kids, but it's also relatable to adults. And that starts at the themes the film tackles. I love the fact that the movie is a metaphor for individuality, something I think many people can relate to, especially in this political time, and choosing a path that goes against the grain and deciding who you want to be. In a world that only thinks being the same and accepting what you are at birth and accepting how we think equals the perfect world. You can argue A Bug's Life tackles the same themes, but for me personally, I think Antz does it better from what I've seen, as when it touches that angle, it's more mature and it's not afraid to get dark when it needs to be dark. Whereas in A Bug's Life, it touches upon those themes, but it's doing it in a way where it's very kiddie, especially when you have the circus bugs in that movie. It at times felt distracting from the hero's journey. And yes, you could argue that there is some comedy here, just like in A Bug's Life. And yes, I'll say there should be comedy, especially this is a kids movie or a family film. I hate using the word a kids movie, but it is targeted to kids. But along with the themes being touched in a more mature way, I think the humor is also adult and more mature. This movie's humor can come across as really adult and really like, what? But it was funny. Some of it, I'll say, I'm surprised got past the ratings. They really feel like something out of a Woody Allen film, I'll say. But they aren't try hard moments. They aren't referencing his films. They're their own type of humor. And they're subtle. They're definitely subtle. And I like some of the improvising Woody did. Like when he's talking to Bala and he goes, I was gonna add. I can't do his. I was gonna add. I want to do his voice. Oh my lad, I was gonna add you to some of my erotic night fantasies. I died when that came up. And the humor is really sharp. And I like how adult it is. And it is almost, you can look at it almost like if, what if Woody Allen did a kids movie? That's the best way I can describe it. And you can tell those moments can at times come from the Weitz brothers and Woody Allen. With the Weitz brothers, you can tell that they're a fan of his work and they've studied his form of comedy. And they really do a great job replicating it. And I'm really excited to see what they do with American Pie. So if you're a fan of Woody's comedy style, you'll get a kick out of this, especially true in the romance segments between the two and how the story brings them together. So overall, the story is great. Being a kids film and handling a subject matter like that in an adult way while also being smart about it and not juvenile. Now, on a technical side, being this is DreamWorks' first animated film, I think it's a good looking film for their first outing, I gotta say. The directing by Eric and Tim is really solid. There's a lot of energy in both of their directing, and I think they managed to get a lot of energy out of the animators for a lot of scenes. Their use of comedic timing given to them by the actors and how they play off those particular aspects were done flawlessly. And the way they were able to give the movie the scope it needed, despite being from the point of view of an ant, I thought was ingenious, with how the camera is always on the ground, so you never see a human. You always are from the point of view of an ant, or the scenes when they're looking over huge objects and the camera's going up, like us, the viewer, are looking up at that huge object as if we're ants. And with how they managed to make the grass look like that of New York, emphasizing how massive and how easy it is to get lost in a world like that. I thought it was a unique way of emphasizing that angle and not breaking the immersion of being an ant. And I loved how the film ends with this sort of wraparound angle with the camera pulling out of the grass, and you get this mix of a sort of matte painting with a little bit of a live action sort of look, and you see it's literally in New York. I thought it added this unique and artsy transition that felt like something out of Balto with that film's wraparound ending. And when you do see them on the outside world, I like how the movie pretty much presents this sense of danger that the outside world is, with how easily lost the characters could get. And with the bugs themselves, I thought it added some challenge to the character's journey, especially in the character's design, which is one thing I will talk about later, and how they present themselves as an actual threat. And I thought the way those scenes were directed, amazing. Look no further than the scene with the ants in like this military group going out to fight these other bugs, and it's swarming with ants and bugs, and each one's getting slaughtered in this sort of nod to Starship Troopers and Saving Private Ryan. And it's not just the outside world that I like and how that's designed. I like the way the colony is designed and how many ants they have in it, showing how massive it is and how it is no different from the real world. And you'll see ants living like everyday human. And while, yes, it is all CGI, the CGI is used to bring the world to life in a way that is unique. And yes, you could say it relies mostly on it, but I don't know. I thought it worked for the film, and I thought it gave the film the identity that it needed for me personally, and it gave the film a look that was memorable. And honestly, in some moments, I gotta say, it looked a bit better than Toy Story. Yeah, I said it. Now, with that said, I'm not trying to draw any comparisons to A Bug's Life, even though I know Jeffrey and John have done that a million times during their fight. But if there is one thing that this film does better than A Bug's Life, it's the way the characters are designed. Because from what I've seen of A Bug's Life, I think the characters in this movie are better designed. I like the fact that they have a bit more character to them, whereas in A Bug's Life, the bugs themselves all felt the same. They felt like they all moved, sounded, and acted the same. It made hard to identify one from the other. Here, though, the bugs feel like their own characters. They have their own size, shape, voices, which the voices are great in this film, and I'll talk about that later when I get to acting. And each one makes the characters stand on their own. Some of them don't even talk. I really, really thought that was a great way to basically make the world, in a way, feel like there's more than just a particular set of bugs out and about. Especially with the fact that some of them feel modeled after their voice actors. Stallone's character being one of them, being that they gave him his chin there. The only complaint I do have about the CGI is the fact that there is a couple scenes when they do get up close on the characters' faces and the CGI looks a bit uncanny in those sections, but I think that has less to do with the CGI and more with how the scene was lit, because there's scenes when they're in the colony and they have this dark lighting to emphasize it's underground, and that I think helped hide the uncanniness of the CGI. But when they're up on the outside world and it's brightly lit and it's daytime and they get up close, I think that's when the CGI really starts to be noticeable, as it does look a bit chintzy and uncanny. But overall, in terms of directing, and despite that problem, I think the CGI looks great, and I think the directing was great as well. But of course, you can't neglect this movie without talking about the actors and how they brought their characters to life. And yes, I am going to start with Woody Allen as Z. And before any of those people who skipped ahead to see how I feel about Woody Allen's performance in this film, go back to that particular part where I talk about the elephant in the room, and you will see that I am talking about his performance in this. Not as a person, but him as an actor. I want to stress that because there are those people, but Woody Allen as Z, I thought he did a great job. I thought they made a daring choice to make him the lead in this type of film, being this is somebody who you would see Christian Slater or Brad Pitt playing, someone with that sort of boy next door, sort of underdog sort of persona that you sort of see grow a bit and kind of grow that sense of toughness as you see him growing as a character a bit and seeing him go through an arc. And it's somebody who carries that charisma in a way that's very underdogish and someone you would buy rising through the ranks and becoming tougher. But Woody made it work, I gotta say, because he delivers that charismatic side in a way that was his own, in his whole everyday working guy side thrust into a particular situation like this movie. And with the dialogue that he improvised, none of it felt like it was straying too far from what the intended tone was. And I just thought he played with the script in a way that allowed him to settle into his character and work with it in a way that it allowed him to build this arc that I felt paid off in the end. And you bought him through that whole arc going to the length that he did and what he has become. So overall, I think Woody did great with that aspect and playing off the other actors, some of them that he had worked with before. So that sense of connection carries through to the screen. Sharon Stone, I also thought did great. That's one in particular. I like the fact that her character shares this same sort of mindset as Woody, as they both feel chained to a specific social class, with Z being a worker and her being forced to marry the general. And I thought she delivered that side of her well, where you get this sense of remorsefulness from her, but you also get that whole my mother's the queen and sort of side of her that she did well and naturally. And none of those moments take away the remorse that you do feel for her, and they don't come across as annoying. And I thought her and Woody shared some great chemistry together. I like the scene of them falling in love. You get that montage where you have that bright, sunshiny day playing and how they work off each other with no words but giggles in their faces. I thought, again, the two did great together. Gene Hackman, a fantastic actor, did a great job playing the villain. I thought he was intimidating, had this great gruffness to his voice that screamed mad leader. How he used that, intimidating the other actors, Stallone especially, that really made him stand out. Christopher Walken is also here, and he's fine. He's off to the side for the most part. He's mostly the assistant to Gene Hackman, and pretty much there's this whole arc where he starts to see maybe he isn't being all that truthful, but it's Christopher Walken. I can't say anything bad about him, even towards the end when he does step up and decide to basically go to the side and protect the other ants. I thought he did well in that area. But speaking of Stallone, he's great too. Always nice to see Stallone in a film like this. I thought him and Woody had this great friendship that they played off each other. I like the scene of the two at the bar, and they're talking about their social classes, why Woody feels he'd be better suited for his, and he's sort of like, you get to spend all day though with those beautiful ladies, and he talks about how we're the lords of the earth and all that, and he's asking him, are you gonna drink that? And he goes, I have a thing about drinking from the anus of another animal. I thought they were great together. It's great to see Stallone in this type of role. And it was something different, too. I like the fact that he took this role and he's playing a different character. Jennifer Lopez, who would become Stallone's love interest in this film, never in a million years would I ever think that would happen. But we're here now. She does well for what she's given. I know she has this reputation of being a diva in real life, but at the end of the day, she's a beautiful woman, and I like her movies. I like Money Train, I like Anaconda, and I like her in this. She does well for what she's given. I got a laugh out of the scene with her and Stallone when he first meets her, and he's staring down at her legs, and she's like, hey, you okay there? But she does well there, also playing this friend to Z and trying to make him embrace the fact that he is a worker and embrace the rank that he is. She's good. She's good. Despite how you feel about her, the woman can turn in a good performance. Other actors, you got Danny Glover in a small role who Z befriends, which saddens me because I love Danny Glover and I wish his role was a bit bigger because his moments are great, especially with how Z's basically looking at him as basically reassurance, basically like, these guys, they're not going to put up much of a fight, are they? And he's like, oh, they will, all right. That got a chuckle out of me. I won't spoil what happens to his character, but he's good. And Bancroft as Bala's mother. She does well for what she's given. Dan Aykroyd's also here as this snobby, sort of stuck-up bug that even does the accent. His wife is actually Jane Curtin, like I mentioned earlier. Nice little nod to their Coneheads part. And just like SNL, they're great together. It's funny where she goes in this film. So the acting for the film is solid, and you can tell the actors are giving it their all. And when it comes down to it, this is a solid start for DreamWorks, and it definitely shows what they could do when they're not copying the Disney formula. If there was a couple cons that I did have with the film, I already talked about a few, like some of the CGI looking a bit uncanny, and I wish Danny Glover had a little bit more of a role. But there are a couple other ones. For example, the score, which while not bad, didn't leave that much of an impression to me, and it was just an in one ear, out the other kind of score. I like John Powell as a composer, but here I didn't really get much out of the music. I am aware they wanted Hans Zimmer to compose, but he was busy with Prince of Egypt, so he recommended John Powell, which I can understand because this doesn't seem like the type of film Hans Zimmer would do. So I'm glad they went with someone else, but still, the score, I just didn't find anything memorable out of it and just felt bland in some areas. And just like one of those instances where I wished it was a bit more zany and a bit more in tone with an ad where they had that bang on the drum all night song, which kind of fit the film's tone more and kind of felt in line with a Woody Allen film as opposed to this score. So the score could be a bit better. And I really wish there was a more satisfying ending for Gene Hackman's character and more of a better final fight between him and Z. Because the way he's finished off is just done in a way that to me isn't satisfying. And I wish they went with a battle that contributed to the movie's theme of individuality, like him fighting for himself and him choosing to go against someone telling him how to be and who to be and fighting against this system that he's created. Because the way it ends here, I was like, come on, man. Granted, the ending all around is good, but the final was just like, I don't know how to say it. I really don't know how to say it. That I just wish they did more with it in that area. It just was underwhelming. Underwhelming is the best way for me to say it. Besides those problems, Antz is a great start to DreamWorks and shows the talents the company has and what the company can do without following the Disney formula. It's smart, funny, and has a message that everybody in this day and age can relate to. So yes, I highly recommend you check out Antz. It proves what the company is capable of and how not following the Disney formula can benefit you. So when it comes down to rating it, I give Antz an 8.9 out of 10, and it deserves it. It therefore gets the Alexandra seal of approval. Definitely one to check out if you are a fan of these type of films and want to see a company step up to the plate and do something different for the animation genres. And Antz, I thought, represented what you can do perfectly. So yeah, that is my review for Antz. And next time I am going to do a review on their next film, The Prince of Egypt. And boy, oh boy, am I excited to talk about that. That'll be saved for another video though. For right now though, I will see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Antz. Which did you prefer? Did you prefer Bugs Life? Did you prefer Antz? I'd love to know you guys' thoughts in the comments below and which you preferred more. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.